Hello and welcome to another new episode of Learning Simplified. And today we are going to discuss about UI semantic container class. Stay tuned. Now this is the project so far that we had seen, that we had built up. We will try to bind this content within the container class as been used in UI semantic. Now in the first place, if we put here this container and hit enter, we can see that this is the container. Now this is the thing that we practically use in case of representing a container class when Bootstrap is installed to our project. Now up to this far, if we just cut this text element from here and if we place it right over here, let's reorganize the thing that we have created. So we have created a container class, and within that container class we have placed a header tag inside this container. Now if we press Ctrl S and head back to our project and reload, we won't be seeing any changes right over here, because this is not the actual class which should be used in this particular case, because here we are using UI semantic instead of a Bootstrap responsive framework. So that is why in an order to declare the container class belonging to UI, we need to declare it right over here. So if we now press Ctrl S and head back to our project and reload, now we can see that practically it is working. The hello world text is right now drifted at the middle of the page, and if we now inspect our element, we can see that there is a container class which is appearing in this extreme right panel with some definite CSS set of rules. And in these rules we can see that the width of this container is set to 1127 pixels in the first place. Let's hit Ctrl Shift M and we can see that this is 992 pixels. That means this is a medium sized device, and we can see that the width is now set to 933 pixels. In the similar fashion, if we now set this width for a small screen device, hit enter, and we can see that the width is now set to 723 pixels, and below this 768 pixels, if we choose the width to be 320 pixels, hit enter, we can see that now the width is practically set to auto. So the point is, for each of these varying breakpoints, as we can see right over here, the width is practically changing. This is a very common behavior to set the width for definite breakpoints, and that is why this thing is going on. But on the basis of which calculation? So let's head back. First of all, press Ctrl Shift M and get back to your normal preview, and here we can see that the width is now set to 1127 pixels. So what is the formula on the basis of which the width of this container is set? So here it goes. This is the formula depending on which the width of the container class is been calculated, and it states that in the first case it is at the rate of table breakpoint, and here we have deducted the gutter size of the device used and the scroll bar width. So what are all these things? In the first case, let's head back for the small screen device, and we can see that the small screen calculation, that means for a device with a width varying from 768 pixels to 991 pixels, is been considered right over here. So in the first case, for small screen device, the minimum width is set to 768 pixels. This is the breakpoint. So this individual 768 pixels is been assigned here. Next comes the gutter size for the lower size device. Now this gutter size is practically defined as the space used by the container, actually the grid from both the ends, from both the sides of the container. So in the left hand side the gutter size is supposed to be 1 em, and in the right hand side the gutter size is supposed to be 1 em too. So that means both the ends should be considered, and that is why it is 2 em right over here. Now in the next case, we are calculating on the basis of the pixel value of the device. Next comes the em size. So what is this em size? Em size is practically the font size, the size of the font appearing into your browser. Now according to W3C, a standard 1 em size is equivalent to 14 pics. So that is why we will be using this at the rate of em size right over here to 14 pics multiplied with the gutter size, that means space left from both the ends of a container, which for a lower screen device is set to 1 em. So 1 em into 2 equals to 2. So 14 multiplied to 2 equals to 28. Next comes the scroll bar width, which is constant in every case. So what is the scroll bar width? If we head back here as we can see right over here, that a scroll bar appears at the side of this browser. So this is the scroll bar width, which is 17 pics, which is a constant value for any kind of browser. So that is why the scroll bar width is set to 17 pics. So 28 plus 17 equals to 45 pics. Now if we deduct this 45 pics from 768 pics, let's use this calculator here. So 768 pics minus 45 pics equals to 723 pics. And this is what we will be exactly seeing in the case for a small screen device. The container width now stands to 723 pics right over here. Now in the similar fashion, if we head on to the next breakpoint, which is 992 pics, in that particular case, this is the medium sized device with calculation which is equals to 992 pics and beyond up to 1199 pics. Now the minimum width set for medium sized device is 992 pics, and here the gutter size, that means the space left from both the ends, is supposed to be 1.5 em, and the scroll bar width is a fixed one, which is 17 pics. For the medium sized device, the container size, it should be now reducing down to the em size is set to 14 pixel, and we have both the ends, so each end is having a size of 1.5 em. So for both the ends it should be 3 em. Now 14 into 3 plus 17, 42 plus 17 equals to 59, and this 59 pics should be deducted from this 992 pics, and the result will be reducing down to this 933 pics. So once again we will be heading back for our calculator. Let's do the job. 992 minus 59 equals to 933 pics, and this is the exact thing which has been shown right over. And in the next case, when we are using a desktop review, there it goes. In that particular case, the width of this container is now reducing down to 1127 pics. So let's do the calculation for larger devices, which is equals to 1200 pics and above. So the breakpoint, table breakpoint is 1200 pics right over here. The em size is 14 pics as been specified by W3C. The gutter space for one end is supposed to be 2 em as been set by US Semantic, and the scroll bar width is 17 pics. So if we now put this whole thing into the formula, and this whole thing should be reducing down to 1127 pics. So 2 into 2 equals to 4, 4 multiplied to 14 equals to 56, 56 plus 17 equals to 73. And now if we deduct this 73 pics from this 1200 pics container, it will be descending down to 1127 pics. This is the container size which is been calculated in this UI semantic language, and the container size below this 768 peaks, it will be taking up 100% device width or auto. From this 768 peaks to 991 peaks, the container size will be restricted down to 723 peaks. From 992 peaks to 1199 peaks is 933 peaks, and from 1200 peaks and above it should be 1127 peaks. So there it goes. This is the calculation has been set here, and we have done all this calculation using this formula of @em size, gutter size of the device used, and the scroll bar width. We now head back to this text editor, and if we head back to this custom style.css, we can see that we have practically created some additional classes right over here. Like we had set this default value, each and every element, it will be set to a default value of margin 0 and padding 0. The HTML page element along with the body element, it will be having a background color of this one, and there are some additional classes which is being used in order to continue with the project to see the variance, the difference into the project. So if we now use this observer class right over here, let's head back to this index.html, and here along with this container class, we will be using this observer here. Hit Ctrl S, head back to your project and reload. And now we can see that practically here comes the result. The container class is now acting along with the observer class that we had created into our project so far. We can see that there goes a margin top of 10 peaks, and there goes a background of this one. So if we now head back, inspect our element, and we can see that the observer class has been employed along with this container class, and all those background properties and margin top properties have been assigned to this individual container class. So that's it for today's tutorial. In the next tutorial, we are going to learn about UI semantic grid system into our project, the various classes that they use together. Stay tuned.